أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome everybody again in the Hadith course, this Introduction to Hadith Sciences course. We are in second lesson. Last lesson we talked about the introduction of the book that we are explaining in this course. And today, inshallah, we will start with chapter 1. So chapter 1, inshallah, we start with al-khabar. So last time we've already defined what is meant by al-khabar. And you know, it has three different meanings. It could be it mean al-hadith, or we talked about it last time. We're going to expand on that in this lesson, inshallah. So, al-bab al-awwal means the first chapter. Al-khabar means, as we talked about before, al-khabar, whether it means hadith or whether it means what is referenced or related to anyone but not the Prophet, peace be upon him, or whether it's basically general, include hadith and any other account of other persons. So anyway, there are three sections, ثلاثة فصول. The first section, تقسيم الخبر بالنسبة لوصوله إلينا. So dividing or breaking down the al-khabar in accordance to or from the perspective of how we received it, how it reached us. لوصوله إلينا. All right? And it has two subsections. الفصل الثاني تقسيمات خبر الآحاد. Again, breaking down خبر الآحاد. We talked about what does it mean ahad and mutawatir before, but we're going to explain that again, inshallah. Also, وفيه مبحثان. So there are like two items or two elements or two subsections within this section. Section 3, خبر الآحاد المشترك بين المقبول والمردود. So again, we'll talk about the خبر الآحاد. And we're going to talk about the accepted and the rejected, or basically unaccepted. So that's the topic in this section or this chapter. And we will start, inshallah, with the first section, which is basically breaking down the khabar or dividing the khabar or taqsim al-khabar from the aspect of or from the perspective of how it reaches us. Okay. All right. So the first title here we're going to talk about is Al-Khabar Al-Mutawatir wa Khabar Al-Ahad. That's basically how you can break down or divide the khabar. This khabar, this account, this record, in relation of how we received it, how it reached us, it could be either mutawatir, could be what we call khabar ahad, mutawatir wa khabar ahad. Right, so again, the Shaykh here is saying ينقسم الخبر بالنسبة لوصوله إلينا إلى قسمين. The record, the account, the khabar, as it reached us, you can classify it in two different ways. It could be either number one, فإن كان له طرق غير محصورة بعدد معين فهو المتواتر. So basically, the first classification of al-khabar is al-mutawatir, al-khabar al-mutawatir, which means that it has multiple ways that is not defined by a certain number. It has so many ways. There is no certain number you can basically confine it within or limit it. It's not limited to a certain number. If that is the case, then this khabar is mutawatir. And number two, al-ahad, khabar al-ahad, that is basically the term given to an account or a record of something that we received through limited number. There is a limited number of ways within which it was narrated to us. In this case, if that is the case, it is khabar ahad. If those ways are confined within certain number, then it is mutawatir. ولكل منهما أقسام وتفاصيل. Each of these two classifications have sub breakdowns or sub and more details, which is basically we're going to go through it. We'll start with al-khabar al-mutawatir. So al-khabar al-mutawatir, what it is? Okay, definition. لغة, from a linguistic point of view, هو اسم فاعل. What we call like a noun that is affiliated or referencing with somebody who did the action. What that we call فاعل. مشتق من التواتر. So it is derived from the word تواتر. أي التتابع. تتابع means something that's basically following something. Too many things follow each other like frequently and fast. Like, for example, you say تواتر المطر. تواتر المطر أي تتابع نزوله. So it's basically pouring. It's down, going down. It's raining. So you can classify, you can describe the rain as something that has a tawatur phenomenon. Right. اصطلاحا هو ما رواه عدد كثير تحيل العادة تواطؤهم على الكذب. So from a terminology point of view, al-khabar al-mutawatir, if an account or something that is classified or described as mutawatir, that means that it has been narrated by multiple sources or many narrators and sources, that it is impossible from al-ada naturally. So it is naturally impossible for those sources to have agreed to communicate or fabricate an account or communicate a lie. They cannot lie. They cannot agree to lie. Like عادة, from naturally point of view, they cannot. So, like for example, if you have an event happened, we're going to come to that in more detail. But you have an event here, right? And this event, multiple people have seen it, like so many. Like maybe it is a sermon that the Prophet said, for example, and the Sahaba is around him, and like so many Sahaba, like saw that event, and then those Sahaba spread in different ways, different places. Okay, so some Sahaba met some people here, and some Sahaba met some people in other country, in other city, in other place, and so on. And then those as well being expanding to their student or whoever they met, right? And then it started communicating that to somebody else and so on. So you end up here, if you keep doing that, you end up with a lot of people here talking about that event, basically narrating it through a continuous narration, but they have never met. These people here have never met. They don't know each other. They never met. They are in different places, different countries, different cities, and so on. So because of that, if I'm here, if you are here now, for example, and you reach that event reached you, and you know it is the same here. Now you listen to basically these people here, and they have the same event. They are talking about the same event. They saw it and they describe it in the exactly same way, here and here and here, in different countries, different places, different cities. It is basically because of that amount of like the several people, the unconfined or like too many, several people are narrating it, and it is spread all over the globe or so many places, and it's exactly the same. When you receive that account, you have to believe it. It's basically they cannot have agreed to that lie because they never met. These people here, they never met. And what about the Sahaba? Sahaba are basically udul, what we say, they don't lie. The Sahaba adl. So the Sahaba level, they are not lying. They cannot lie. Or they don't lie. And then basically that means the khabar mutawatir. You can see that in the Quran, for example. It's a very clear example. The Quran that we recite or re-recited in country, exactly the same Quran that has been recited in different countries and so on and so forth. So that's a khabar mutawatir. The fact that, for example, there is a city called Paris in France. Maybe you've never been there, but you know about it through a khabar mutawatir. You cannot just say, no, because I've never been there, I can't believe there is a Paris. Until I go there and see it myself, I will not believe that. That's basically nonsense. If you say to somebody that to anybody, he will tell you are crazy. So anyway, that's what we mean by by tawatur or tatabu. So now the Sheikh is basically explaining the definition. He's saying, ومعنى التعريف, the meaning of the definition is أن المتواتر هو الحديث أو الخبر الذي يرويه فيه كل طبقة من طبقات سنده رواة كثيرون. So it is an account or a record or a حدث, event, or a hadith that is being narrated in every level of narration, every generation, until it reaches you, until it reaches the book of hadith or whatever, until it is recorded. Through every layer of those or generation, كل طبقة من طبقات سنده رواة كثيرون. There are multiple here, multiple. If like there are 100,000 here, or 100 here, 100 there, 2,000, 200 here, 1,000 here, but there is only one here, that is not mutawatir now. Right? So in every level, that amount of people narrating it has to be so many and undefined by a certain number. All right, so continue the explanation. So it is narrated in every level by so many narrators. يحكم العقل عادة باستحالة. So the mind, your mind will generally or naturally rule out any possibility of those narrators in every generation that they have agreed to fabricate that event or that account. يحكم العقل عادة باستحالة. It is impossible that those narrators have agreed to fabricate this event or this account, al-khabar basically. Okay? So that's the explanation of the definition. I think now it should be clear, or hopefully it is clear now. Now there is a shurut. Shurut means condition. شروطه, its conditions. يتبين من شرح التعريف أن التواتر لا يتحقق في الخبر إلا بشروط أربعة. So from the explanation of the definition, we can see that there are 4 conditions in order for a khabar to be mutawatir, to be verified as mutawatir. These conditions are, first condition, number 1, أن يرويه عدد كثير. So it has been narrated by many people. By many people. How many? That's a good question that I think most of you are being basically wondering about it now. Well, there are actually not one number, or it has been, there's a disagreement or different opinions about how many in every level that should be narrated. المختار أنه 10 أشخاص. So that Sheikh here is saying that the chosen opinion is that it should be 10 persons, 10 people. So that's an opinion, and this opinion is attributed to As-Suyuti and others. And this basically, is in this instance, is the definition or the condition that the Sheikh here in his book has adopted. And that's a different, that is the first opinion, right? 10 persons in every, at least 10 in every generation. The second condition. Now, these 10, there are other opinions we're going to like talk about them later on. But here he's saying at least 10. The second condition is أن توجد هذه الكثرة في جميع طبقات السند. So these many people narrating it has to be in every level of the isnad, in every generation, in every tabaqa, in every student to his sheikh, to his sheikh, to his sheikh, and so on, all the way to the Prophet, peace be upon him. It has to be narrated by the same amount, at least the same. So if it is 10, if you adopt the opinion that it should be 10, then from Al-Bukhari, for example, it has to be narrated by 10. The Bukhari has to has heard it from 10 to 10 to 10 to 10, all the way back to the Prophet. And then, of course, Al-Bukhari book itself is being narrated to so many people, and so it should be mutawatir at that stage. And the third condition is أن تحيل العادة تواطؤهم على الكذب, meaning that, again, as we said, it is impossible for those number or for these people to have agreed to fabricate the issue. Again, maybe there are 10, and we know that there are 3 scholars in Baghdad, 3 scholars in Egypt, 3 scholars in Morocco or Maghrib, and 1 scholar in maybe whatever other place in the world, for example. So we got our 10, and they are so spread apart, they cannot have agreed to that. For example, that's just an example to get it clearer to you. So that's the third condition. The last condition, the fourth, is أن يكون مستند خبرهم الحس. This is very important. This is basically crucial. That account that they are narrating, it has to basically or rely on al-hiss, senses. They have to have seen something or heard something, right? It is not opinion-based. There is no mutawatir in opinion-based or in something that your mind judge, like أخبار العقل, أحكام العقل, for example, as we talked in Tawheed. These cannot be mutawatir, okay? Al-khabar is mutawatir. It has to be something like at the end of it, at the end of the chain, the Prophet, peace be upon him, for example, said something to multiple people, they heard the Prophet saying. So it is a sense, okay? It depends on a sense. They saw an event, they saw something. For Paris, for example, so many people went there and saw it, and they are talking about it, okay? So that event or that account or that record is being transmitting, basically it relies on it being identified initially by senses and basically being communicated based on that. So if, for example, a scholar saying something based on his opinion, in my opinion, the skies should be, striped with black lines or whatever. His opinion like that, for example. And let's say so many people communicated that to others. Does that mean that the skies are actually like that, as he described? No. It only means that he said that, and they heard it. So the mutawatir aspect of it is that multiple people has heard that person saying it. But does that mean that this actually is the case? No. Okay? So basically, they have to say كَقَوْلِهِمْ سَمِعْنَا, we heard, or رَأَيْنَا, we saw, أو لمسنا, we touch it or sense something. So basically, that has to be the case. It has to be a sense. أما إن كان مستند خبرهم العقل, if it is, for example, what they rely on in their account or in their saying is the mind, is the intellect. كالقول بحدوث العالم مثلا فلا يسمى الخبر حينئذ متواترا. So that خبر, that account then is not متواتر. It cannot say متواتر. As for example, somebody saying حدوث العالم أو قدم العالم. Somebody saying العالم is emergent. The universe is emergent, or the universe is beginningless, has no beginning. So many people said that universe has no beginning. Does that mean that is correct and it is خبر متواتر, we have to accept it? No. Because they didn't see the universe when it was started or not started in order for them to make such a call. So these statements we reach through intellect and evidence, like we apply our intellect to trying to reach something like that. So it is not متواتر. Okay, what is the rule that we get out of it? الحكم. المتواتر يفيد العلم الضروري. So any خبر that is being classified as متواتر, it benefits or it leads to necessary knowledge. So you have علم ضروري, which is basically it's قطعي, it's certain. That's what it means. So it leads to or provides a certain knowledge. There is no doubt about it. أي العلم اليقيني, certain knowledge الذي يضطر الإنسان إلى التصديق به تصديقا جازما. So that a person, an individual who has been informed of that متواتر account or record, he is forced to basically accept it and believe it تصديقا جازما, with certainty. He has to. As we said earlier about Paris, nobody can now deny that Paris exists because he hasn't been there, he hasn't seen it for himself, for example. So he has to accept it as if he had been there when that event happened himself. So there is no doubt. إنه لا يتردد. There is no doubt about it. Okay? فكذلك الخبر المتواتر, لذلك كان المتواتر كله مقبولا. That's why anything that has been classified as متواتر and accepted as متواتر, it has to be accepted. ولا حاجة إلى البحث عن أحوال رواته. This is very important as well. You don't need to investigate the status of the narrators. Right? You don't need to say whether they are lying or not, or whether they have doubts or like accuracy or not. Remember what we talked about earlier last lesson about the status, the science or the body of knowledge that research or investigate the men or the persons in a chain of narrations, what are their status, so that we can make a judgment about what they narrate, right? You don't need to do any of that. So all that is not the subject, or the خبر المتواتر is not the subject of this science. Once you determine and you define that something is متواتر, you accept it. You don't need to look into the isnad, who narrated it or whatever. Okay? أقسام, the breakdown of it. ينقسم الخبر can be divided المتواتر إلى قسمين هما لفظي ومعنوي. So there are two further classifications or groups of the خبر المتواتر. It could be لفظي or معنوي. Okay, لفظي is basically based on the utter of the word itself. أو معنوي, or معنوي means based on the meaning. Okay? What does that mean? We're going to explain. Starting with المتواتر اللفظي. So المتواتر اللفظي هو ما تواتر لفظه ومعناه. So it has been transmitted with tawatur in its wording and the meaning. So both. Because if it is tawatur lafdhan, then lafdhan, like words, then the meaning is already included with the words. Of course, all the Quran is mutawatir, lafdhan wa ma'na, there is no question about that. And some ahadith as well are classified as mutawatir. As an example, the Shaykh here is giving you one of those. Hadith, من كذب علي متعمدا فليتبوأ مقعده من النار. Anyone who fabricates something or do lying in something about me, the Prophet, peace be upon him, meaning to, like deliberately, متعمدا, فليتبوأ, he should expect his seat in hellfire, وَعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So this hadith has been narrated by 70 odd Sahabi. Over 70 Sahabi has narrated this hadith. ثم استمرت هذه الكثرة بل زادت. So this like number like استمرت, continued, but actually زادت, even increased in the other generations, باقي طبقات السند. So this hadith is mutawatir, as you can see, with the meaning and the wording, because this wording as is, or like in similar wording, this wording has been communicated. من كذب علي متعمدا فليتبوأ مقعده من النار. So this is the mutawatir al-lafzi wording, lafz. Al-mutawatir al-ma'nawi is the hadith or the account or the record that has been classified as mutawatir or narrated through tawatur. However, not the wording, just the meaning. For example, there are multiple mutawatir ahadith about the Prophet, peace be upon him, raising his hands in a dua, in supplication, making dua. But the hadith, when you look at those ahadith themselves, they are different events. Every event has not reached the tawatur level, but together, combining them, that meaning of raising hands has reached the tawatur. So فقد ورد عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم نحو 100 حديث. There are over or about 100 حديث. كل حديث منها فيه, every hadith in it, there are, or it mentions that Nabi عليه الصلاة والسلام رفع يديه في الدعاء, raised his hand in supplication, in making dua. But they are in different qadaya, or different issues, different events, different situations. So every situation, every event is not mutawatir in itself. Well, however, the common amount of it, like there is a commonality within all those events, which is basically raising a hand in doing dua. This common part, with all the ways that has been communicated to us, has reached the tawatur. So in this sense, the ma'na, the event, there is a part or certain matter within all those hadiths common that has been communicated to us within tawatur. So there's a difference between tawatur lafzi and tawatur ma'nawi. Wujudu. So do we have, again, we're talking about the tawatur. Do we have a lot of tawatur, or where does that tawatur, or like the accounts that has been narrated through tawatur, where are they? So the Shaykh is telling you, يوجد عدد لا بأس به من الأحاديث المتواترة. There are number of quite a few أحاديث متواترة. Some of them is hadith al-Hawd, the basin of the judgment day, that we will meet the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the judgment day across or by the basin, his basin, where we are going to drink from it. وحديث المسح على الخفين, the hadith that Prophet, peace be upon him, made masah upon the khuf, right? Not like washing his leg, he was wearing that khuf, and basically he did the masah on it. وحديث رفع اليدين في الصلاة, which we talked about. وحديث نضر الله امرأ, which we talked about also before. وغيرها كثير. However, لكن لو نظرنا, if we looked at the number of the hadith with ahad that didn't reach the tawatur, we will find that those أحاديث المتواترة قليلة جدا بالنسبة إليها. So the أحاديث متواترة is very few, like as a proportion, like as a ratio, when you compare it to the أحاديث that are ahad, that has not reached the المتواتر level. What are the most famous books about أحاديث متواترة? There are quite a few. So there is الأزهار المتناثرة في الأخبار المتواترة للسيوطي. قطف الأزهار also للسيوطي. نظم المتناثر من الحديث المتواتر للكتاني. So these are examples where the أحاديث المتواترة has been combined in one book for the scholars or by scholars and so on. Now we move on to Al-Khabar Al-Ahad. We will, inshallah, talk about it in next lesson, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.